Thousands of people marched and gathered in Tel Aviv on Thursday night to push for Israeli government to reach a ceasefire deal with Hamas and bring hostages home. 6 months into Israel's war in the Gaza Strip, time is running out for relatives of hostages yearning to see the kidnapped come home. When the Hamas-led militants stormed into southern Israel on October 7th, they killed some 1,200 people and took around 250 hostages. Half a year into Israel's war, agonized families are in a race against time. In November, a week-long ceasefire deal saw the release of more than 100 hostages. But the war is dragging on with no end in sight and no serious hostage deal on the table. Israel says more than 130 hostages remain, with about a quarter of those believed dead. Divisions are deepening in the country over the best way to bring them home. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has vowed to both eliminate Hamas and bring back all hostages, but he's made little progress. He faces pressure to resign, and the US has threatened to scale back its support over the humanitarian situation in Gaza. On and off negotiations mediated by Qatar, the United States and Egypt have yielded very little. As for analysts, if a viable deal emerges, decisions will become harder and the divisions will become sharper. Now, Israelis are divided into two main camps. Some want the government to put the war on hold and free the hostages. On the other, some Israelis think the hostages are an unfortunate price to pay for eradicating Hamas. The United Nations Secretary General pushed for urgent, meaningful and measurable progress to avert famine in Gaza. Antonio Guterres said Israel's commitments to improve aid access in the Gaza Strip have had limited and so
apparent progress in one area is often cancelled out by delays and restrictions elsewhere. For example, although the Israeli authorities have cleared more aid convoys, those clearances are often granted when it is too late in the day to make deliveries and return safely. One can say that our personnel cannot operate in darkness in a war zone littered with unexploded ordnance. So the impact is limited, sometimes nil.
Now, reports suggest Israel will open a third crossing into northern Gaza later this month. The Zikim crossing will join the Erez crossing and Gate 96, which were respectively opened earlier this month and in March. Zikim will serve as the main route for aid to northern Gaza, as Erez and Gate 96 are less suited thoroughfares for large amounts of trucks. US State Department said humanitarian circumstances in Gaza are still dire, and Israel needs to do more to allow more aid and coordinate with agencies on deconfliction.
There has been some measurable progress that we've seen when it comes to humanitarian aid getting into Gaza. But the circumstances within Gaza continue to be dire, and more absolutely needs to be done. The crisis that we're seeing demands rapid expansion of these efforts. We are talking about making sure additional aid gets into Gaza, making sure additional steps and measures are taken towards deconfliction and appropriate humanitarian access.
Now, hundreds of demonstrators protested in Argentina's capital to call for President Milei's administration to withdraw his support for Israel and break off diplomatic relations. Argentine President Javier Milei has been outspoken in his support for Israel. Last February, he visited Jerusalem and met with Israeli President Isaac Herzog. For all the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.